call me a cheater again. Why am I such a cheater? You people are so mean. Wait. Ooh.
In Tom Clancy's The Division 2, there's been a recent surge of speedrun times posted across social media. Huge name YouTubers are dipping their toes into the speedrun scene, and their subscribers are following suit, which is great to see. The cause of this surge is twofold. Firstly, the game's first incursion, Paradise Lost, released in October, which puts 4 players' coordination and build crafting to the test against a number of challenging encounters. The second reason, though, is that the speedrun community is gradually shifting to run more within a category called glitchless. The glitchless category does away with cheesy boss one-shots and area skips to instead test a team's raw skill in playing an activity as intended, but as fast as possible. But that doesn't mean that clever strategies can't be found to save huge amounts of time. One of those strategies is the one-phase Wright, discovered by Hans & Co., who are otherwise known as the Japanese team, whereby Wright can be killed without any intermediary phases, chaining showers together. And because of the speed of execution, only one ad spawn needs to be dealt with. Whilst I've seen some tutorials for this strategy around, there are always some small but crucial elements missing. For instance, how do you consistently skip the final ad wave? How do you actually execute this? I.e., what builds do you and your team run? Want to know more? Because in this video, I'm going to explain all. If you found this video helpful, please like, comment and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Without much further ado, let's get into it. Before we get into practical execution, it's fitting to cover the basic strategy so you know what I'm talking about later on. It doesn't take a genius to unpick what's going on at a high level, but let's analyse the fight stage by stage to give you a full breakdown of what's going on. The first part of the fight goes as usual. Wright is kited to the far right hand side and water is hit. But the key here is that a small amount of health is left on the boss. Why do we do this? It's simple. If the boss is still vulnerable to damage, he'll be able to still be kited around the map, so you can probably work out what happens next. The player with aggro can kite Wright to the next damage location before he's sent into immunity. This means that whilst he's re-entering immunity, the next shower can be hit, and he'll be vulnerable for damage again. This process is then repeated one final time on the far left, commonly referred to as bar, shower, where the boss dies and the team runs on. Easy, right? Well, there are some complexities that may not be immediately obvious, and I get lots of questions about them in streams and comment sections. Namely, 1, why is the boss still immune even though the team did everything right? And 2, why did the team have to clear a wave or 2 of ads after the boss dies, while many other teams don't? So let's cover them off in that order. Firstly, the boss immunity. If you pay careful attention to the boss, you'll see that after going into immunity, he briefly stops moving, then glows, then does an animation of stomping his leg. There are 2 key things that these actions correspond to in terms of speedrun outcomes. Firstly, the boss glowing means that he can be showered again. Shower him before he's glowing and he'll get stuck in immunity. The next is the lesser known complexity though, which is the stomping animation. If you turn water during this animation, no matter what, he'll be stuck in immunity. This is because the game doesn't handle animation cancelling particularly well, so the animation of stomping overrides the animation of him exiting immunity. Whilst theoretically, you can turn the water before or after this animation, as long as the boss is glowing, and still execute the strategy, most teams tend to wait until the animation is finished to turn. It's much safer and loses only fractions of a second. If this is a problem you're regularly facing, try turning later, it will nearly definitely help you out. With possible reasons for immunity covered off, let's look at the most frequently asked question: how the final ad spawn is skipped. The answer to this question may not be one you particularly like, but it's very simple. You need to be fast, both in killing the boss in the final phase and in general execution. Let's delve deeper into this. Firstly, why does the ad skip occur at all? In all areas of the game, there's a simple rule. If the area is empty and the objective has been reached, the next objective will be triggered. In this case, this means, if the boss is dead and the area is secure, the door will open. The game doesn't know that an ad spawn is imminent, which saying that out loud is bizarre, so as long as the chunga and the boss are dead before the ads have spawned, you'll be able to progress. So why does going fast determine whether this ad spawn comes while the boss is alive or dead? The final boss kill part is obvious. If you take a lot of time to kill the boss, you haven't duped the game. But it's little known that actually the rest of the fight plays into this timing too. Ad spawns are on a timer, which starts the second the boss spawns. Let's use random numbers for the sake of demonstration. Say this timer is 2 minutes and we have 2 different teams. Team A kites the boss to the final shower in just 1 minute. This means they have 1 minute to kill the boss and chunga before the ads will spawn. Team B is much slower and gets the boss to the final shower in 1 minute and 55 seconds. This means that they have 5 seconds to kill the boss and chunga, and if they don't, they'll have to reset that run. So hopefully that explains what's going on with the ad skip and immunity phases. A lot clearly rides on going fast here, so how do you go fast? What builds do we use to clear this encounter consistently? The standard speedrun setup for this fight is 3 strikers players, with 1 future initiative healer. There's a lot of flexibility in the strikers builds, they can be crit or headshot focused, whatever you're comfortable with. I'll be covering the strategy my team uses, which revolves around headshot builds, but crit doesn't deviate much, other than slightly different boss damage strategies. My strikers build looks like this. It consists of 4 pieces strikers battle gear, a Dodge City holster, and a punch drunk mask. All rolls are for headshot damage, and my weapons are Ouroboros, Lefty, and a flatline D50. One other player on the team runs an identical setup to this, with the third running a striker's crit build. This is for quick killing of the chunga and good backup boss damage. The Future Initiative build consists of 4 pieces Future Initiative, 1 piece Alp Summit, and a perfect opportunistic backpack. This player later swaps to a Costa Go bag for an overcharge in the final phase, but if you aren't comfortable doing this, you don't have to. The weapons for this build are Scorpio and Lefty. With the builds covered off, let's look at exact strategy here. Our overall team composition will consist of 2 players focusing ads, 1 on left, 1 on right. The third DPS player will be taking the boss's aggro when he spawns, and the healer will be turning the first valve. The reasoning for this is that it enables the healer to turn the final valve, maximising DPS availability to kill the boss and chunga fast. In terms of kiting, we'll be taking the boss to the following locations in the following order. Why this specific order, I hear you ask? This is just for maximising speed. You're going to do right first because it's a short kite, followed by the left side of the middle to buy time to kill ads and still DPS the boss, while getting him closer to the final spot. The final spot will be the bar area. This is because it positions the team right next to the door, wasting no time on getting out of the encounter once the boss is dead. So with that covered off, let's look at what's going on phase by phase. Firstly, the spawn. As I'm sure you're used to, a predetermined player will be stood closest to the boss, shooting as he spawns to force aggro to that player. Whilst the boss is spawning, there's also the option for this player to EMP sticky the ground in front of the boss and detonate as soon as he spawns. What this does isn't related to aggro, but rather, with the correct timing, all boss animations can be skipped, meaning the fight starts sooner than it would without the sticky bomb. The healer will push into the valve room and get ready to throw a sledgehammer grenade. Whether you EMP'd or not, the DPS player will now work his way over to the far right water sprinkler and stand still there. You can also use this opportunity to stack strikers if you need. Once the boss is close to the sprinkler, the healer will throw a sledgehammer grenade before turning the valve. This is roughly when the first ad spawn will come in, so the other 2 DPS will be dealing with that, making sure to clear the ads on the side closest to the boss first for safety. In our strategy, the healer also puts an Achilles pulse on the boss for the DPS kiter to shoot, making damage really mindless. If you choose to run crit builds, you'll just have to deal straight SMG damage here. Now that the boss is damaged a bit and aggro is on the healer, he'll make his way into the middle water sprinkler, taking care not to accidentally bait a boss swing since this will lose time due to the boss stopping running. Once the boss is in position, the 3 DPS will deal the remaining damage to the boss and the first kiter will turn the valve. The healer will then proc opportunistic and run towards the final valve. Whilst the healer is running to the valve and the DPS kiter is running to the final sprinkler, the 2 other DPS will be giving the boss everything they have. Once the boss reaches the final sprinkler, the team will send the boss immune and call out to the healer once the stomping animation has concluded. At this point, in our team, the healer throws a sledgehammer grenade and puts an overcharged Achilles pulse onto the boss before turning the valve. The 2 headshot builds will then deal a small amount of SMG damage to remove damage caps, before taking pistol shots to one-shot the boss. Whilst the 2 headshot players are killing the boss, the crit build is looking for the Chunga and killing him as soon as possible. Provided the Chunga and boss die smoothly, that's it. The whole encounter is complete and the team can run on. Congratulations. So that about covers off the Wright strategy, and hopefully it's a useful breakdown. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them in the comments, and if this helped you, please consider subscribing. Good luck out there, and thanks for watching.